everyone, it's Teresa and welcome back to my channel. It has been a minute since I've done a video that isn't a vlog. So, it's definitely been a minute. It's just easier to film vlogging at the current moment. So I have videos planned, it's just that they're taking a bit longer for me to plan than I had anticipated. And I didn't plan any other videos out of that, so. But today's video is going to be a pretty easy one. It is me doing, apparently, the internet has failed me because no one told me that there was a fine line book tag. And as you know, I stan Harry Styles in this house and every other house that I go into because I'm a trash can. So, because I haven't done this tag and I thought it would round off, you know, my inability to plan anything at the current moment, we're doing this tag. So, let's get into it. So the first prompt is Golden, and that is a new to you book series slash the honeymoon phase. Now, we all know where this is going. So that book, or should I say books, is actually Six of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is the first book in the duology following a different set of characters set within the same Grisha world. They basically you guys know the plot of this by now, I feel. It's a heist story. They're trying to steal someone from a prison. Yeah, we all in agreement that we know what that is. Okay, I recently read this last month, and I read Crooked Kingdom, and I read Crooked Kingdom, and I read Crooked Kingdom this month. I will have both of the vlogs to those linked down below, as well as any reviews that I have for those books, or any books listed in this video anyway. And I actually love it. I love this a lot more than the original Grisha trilogy. I think it's written a lot more betterist. The writing is a lot better than in Grisha, the original trilogy. They have a lot more fleshed out characters. We have a lot more fleshed out plot. The motives are a little easier. Granted, we are lacking in some Darkling content and some Nikolai Lantsov content in these two books, but we're gonna forgive it because we have Kaz and Inej. And like literally there was not a single character in this book that I genuinely hated that wasn't the antagonist. I love them and I will protect them with all my heart regardless of my feelings for them. Truly, I love them, and this is probably one of my favorite duologies ever because like even the representation is, I like it. So it's just a lot better and I'm down for it. I am here for it, you guys. The next prompt is Watermelon Sugar, and that is your favorite smutty book. Now I have not read a lot of smutty book. I have read books with smut within them, but not a lot of smutty books. And I ended up choosing a book that I haven't read in a hot minute, and I haven't continued on with the series, and that is Receiver of Many by Rachel Alexander. This is a Persephone and Hades myth retelling, and it's one of my favorite, really. It's kind of the only Persephone Hades myth retelling out there at the current moment that I know of. But it's one of my favorite retellings out there. It's so good from what I remember. I didn't like it when I didn't like rereading it as much, but when I first read it, I adored it. I loved it. I love Persephone. I love Hades and how he's such a supportive husband. And then the smut. The next prompt is Adore You, and that is a happy, upbeat book or character that you adore. For that, I'm gonna have to go with Max from Heretics Anonymous by Katie Henry. This is a YA contemporary novel following this main character, Michael, who kind of has to go to a Catholic school and he's an atheist. There he finds these people who are not fitting or necessarily squeezing into the category of perfectly Catholic, and makes a group with them. One of the characters there is Max. He is this really sweet boy who just literally wants to wear capes. He comes from kind of, I believe, an eccentric household, and he is just a happy-go-lucky kind of dude who wants all of his friends to get along, and he wants to wear capes, but the dress code won't let him wear capes. So I'm choosing Max. I feel like all of the Maxes in every single book series are some kind of cute. Like we have Max from the Renegades, which is hidden behind here. Then we have Max from the Immortal Instruments, and now we have Max from Heretics Anonymous. What's with the name Max that makes everything so much cuter and the characters are so much more precious? Someone explain the science to me. The next prompt is Lights Up, and that is a book that lets you know it's okay to be yourself. The book I chose for this prompt is Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens. The book I chose for this prompt is Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. This is another YA contemporary following Simon. I almost said Simon Snow. Simon Spear, who has been messaging this sweet boy named Blue for the past couple months, and somehow his emails get leaked, or someone finds his emails, and in order to keep that secret from, coming out into the world until he is ready to come out, he has to kind of protect Blue and do things. We've seen the movie. I'm sure a lot of you guys have read the books. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I haven't read this in a hot minute, but the movie always gets me crying, and I try to watch the movie fairly religiously. I mean, by the time I had read this book, I was already out and about. I was already out of the closet. But definitely, if I had the chance to read before I had gone out of the closet and still struggling with who I am as a person and all that fun stuff, I would have enjoyed this book. So I'm going to choose this book for this particular reason. Because, past Therese would have really appreciated it. The Therese that read this after, she appreciated it as a look back. But past Therese would have really liked this book. The next prompt is Cherry, and that is a book that has left a long-lasting impression of you, and that is After the Flood by Cassandra Montag. I read this book recently in January. This was a recommendation to me, and I genuinely enjoyed this book. This is an adult post-apocalyptic world where a series of floods has basically wiped out America as we know it. I believe the entire world as we know it. And we kind of are seeing this society come back up from nothing. And the main character, one of her daughters, she has two of them. The eldest daughter had been taken away, and now I believe 7 or so years later, she and her now younger daughter are traveling the world trying to find the eldest daughter. And there's a lot of questions about family and morality. And honestly, this was a wild ride to read for the beginning of the year, and it has stuck with me every time I think of characters and morally gray decisions to make. This book is always heads up for After the Flood. There is a list of trigger warnings as well. So the trigger warnings that some of these are death and violence toward children, suicide / mental suicide, alcohol abuse, loss of a child, loss of a family member, sexual violence, abandonment. And that is just some of the trigger warnings on this list. I will be leaving my Goodreads review, which has that list, as well as my video review, which also has me explaining the trigger warnings for this book, linked down below in case you want to pick this up, but you're not sure what is exactly in this book. The next question is Falling, and that is a book that has broken your heart. And I'm going to have to go with an oldie but a goodie, and that is Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky. This is an adult, contemporary, coming-of-age novel. We follow Charlie during his freshman year of high school. He's really struggling. He has gone through a lot in the past year and a half that has kind of left him a little shaken, and he starts to write letters to an anonymous friend who is the reader, trying to explain his feelings, his thoughts and emotions, and just trying to traverse through this really tough transition period in his life. It's Perks of Being a Wallflower. I have cried several times reading this book. I have cried watching the movie. There's just a lot of emotion and a lot of important messages within this book involving the things that Charlie has gone through and how he copes with it. Trigger warning though for this book, there is homophobia, there is child abuse, depression, I believe a suicide attempt or talks of suicide, I think, as well as probably alcohol and drug use. So just keep that in mind before you pick up this book. The next prompt is To Be So Lonely, and that is pick your favorite flawed character. And I'm gonna have to go with Henry from The Secret History by Donna Tartt. This is an adult dark academia novel following these group of students who start studying the classics for their master's degree under this really eccentric and really into the classics teacher, which also same. During this time, they want to get to know more of the rituals and kind of the practices of the Greek culture, and find themselves committing serious acts that start to spiral them deeper and deeper into not only evil acts, but also into kind of madness. I chose Henry because he is the perfect flawed character for this. He has a questionable background. He's very mysterious, and he does things for the sake of finding knowledge and truth in all of it, and I feel like he got lost along the way. There, as well as him just the things that he planned in this book, you guys, makes him utterly psychotic. Utterly psychotic. But 10 out of 10. If I met him on the street and I knew he was psychotic and he would kill me, still would go for it. Still would shoot the shot. I've never met a character where I'm like, would be so uneasy around them, but still so attracted to them. And I struggle saying the words because it's just a... If you've read the book, you know the allure of Henry and kind of his... just the allure of Henry. The next prompt is she, and that is your ideal book boyfriend or book girlfriend, and I have several. So we're gonna go with 3, and that is Matthew Fairchild and Anna Lightwood from Chain of Gold, as well as Cassian from A Court of Mist and Fury. I'm trash. Really, I'm surprised that I didn't choose recent for this, but in all honesty, Cassian's like knucklehead personality and overall crackhead energy, as well as his cockiness and his like vibe, just vibes with me a little bit more, so I'm gonna go with Cassian. But if I had a choice, I probably would end up dating like Amren, Rhysand, Azriel, Cassian, just the entire summer court. And I mean, we all know how much I love Anna Lightwood and Matthew Fairchild from my vlog for Chain of Gold. So the next prompt is Canyon Moon, and that is a book that feels like home, and that is going to be Balefire by Kate Tiernan. As you guys can tell, she is falling apart, which is why I have not reread her in a hot minute. This is a YA urban fantasy following witches in New Orleans. New Orleans. Essentially, these two twins, Thais and Cleo, have been separated at birth, and due to unforeseen circumstances, they are suddenly brought back together in New Orleans and this kind of mystical world of witches and good and bad magic. And it's one of my favorite. It's like a bind-up copy of the 4 books. But it's one of my favorite quartets to read ever, and I need to reread her, but again, she's falling apart at the seams. And I don't want to open her and hold her open for longer than necessary and have her fall apart. But she is home. She is home. Every time I am in a reading slump, or these are one of the go-to books that I tend to gravitate toward when I am in a reading slump, because it's YA romancy trash with some witches in there, and there's Kate Tiernan always throws in some kind of LGBT representation, which I genuinely enjoy. So the next prompt is Treat People with Kindness, and that is a book with an important message. And I'm going to go with a book that's pretty popular, and that is The Hate U Give by Angie Thomas. This is a YA contemporary novel following Star Carter as she is coming home from a party one night with her friend, and she's in this like passenger seat when her friend is shot unarmed by a cop. This leads to a lot of things, and we've all seen the trailers for the movie. We've all probably seen the movie and have read the book. Aside from the overall message of like Black Lives Matter and like we need to start protecting our Black kids, I like the messages with the motivations behind everything. I like that Angie Thomas gave us more backstory on the victim who was shot and killed in cold blood, as well as kind of trying to teach yourself that there are certain people who have internalized like racism deep set inside their bones, and that is not up to you to fix. Genuinely, that's not up to you to fix. It's not up to you to suffer through it either, as well as kind of learning not to trust everything that the media kind of puts out, which I think is a lesson that we all need to learn, but some people are they're a little slow on the times. I haven't read this book in a hot minute, but it's one of my favorite books, and I think I'm overdue for a reread. And finally, the last prompt is Fine Line, and that is a book that you love, but where you have a love-hate relationship with one of the one of the OTPs. Now, I struggled with this one because I love my OTPs. I love them to tears. There are some where I'm like, yeah, you're no good, but I love the characters regardless. More or less, Gayla and I are on flimsy terms, but I'm not gonna talk about that. So I struggled. I genuinely struggled. Like, there's probably one that I hate, despise overall, and that is Tamlin and Feyre, because like Tamlin's trash, but also traumatic instances, but also he was set up to be trash in the first book, so I can't. The couple that I finally went with was Nesta and Cassian from A Court of Mist and Fury. I just don't understand the hype. I get it, they are mates. I can't not talk about spoilers when talking about them. I understand, they're mates. I respect that they are mates. However, I think that Nesta has a lot of growth to go through before she can be with Cassian, because Cassian has gone through a lot in his very, very long life. He has been through a lot, and he has risen from the ranks to become the general of the armies for the Night Court. And Nesta's just, I get it, there's trauma. But even before there was trauma, she was just a bitch. And she wasn't a bitch to be nice, she was just genuinely rude. And we don't notice her to becoming any nicer until like maybe the 3rd book. And then the novella kind of ruined all of that, because you know, there's trauma where she is, but she's still just a terrible human being. And I don't like her for Cassian. So unless she goes through some major growth in books 4, 5, and 6, I don't want to hear it. But that is it for the Fine Line book tag. I wasn't tagged by anyone per se. I just have a problem with Harry Styles, and I really like the album. So if you guys want to do this tag and haven't done it yet or haven't heard of it, I tag you, because I forgot to ask my group chat if anyone wanted to do this tag. But until next time, hit like, subscribe, comment. I swear I'll be having more non-vlog content soon. I just need to sit my butt down and actually plan the videos. Have you guys read any of these books? If not, would you guys consider picking them up? Did you guys agree with some of my choices? What books would you choose for this tag? Let's have a nice conversation down below about them. But until next time, I will see you guys in my next video, and I hope you guys are having a great week. Bye!